Adam, question that always comes up, and I know we always talk about being older in the business, right? And what happens when we don't have Wi-Fi, when we don't have internet, when we don't have technology? So old school folks who've been doing this for a while, we can actually figure stuff out on the fly in the field. But what happens if we don't have technology and we walk into a building and we lose a signal? What is the new generation going to do when you basically take that lifeline away and we don't have, what do you think?
Well, I have actually got some real experience with this. I did a US base job in the middle of nowhere. I can't tell you where it was. And it was a super secure base. So I'm walking in, I got my laptop in my bag, I got my phone. They took all that shit off me. They let me go in with my notebook and my little calculator that had a square root function. That was it. So obviously the commission plan had been submitted. They printed that out and gave it back to me. So I literally had to do this job in a 1980s analog style, right?
So hold on, wait, you had, oh my God, God forbid, notebook?
Yeah, and paper. And like,
what would the new generation do if they didn't have this?
Yeah, I had to do hand calculations, fill in all the forms. It was so because that's how I started. It wasn't a problem for me, but I had people in my team who were younger because everyone's younger than me, and it was a problem. It was a real problem.
So like how, okay, so the question would be, the next part is so we know it's a problem because basically we're so advanced that without, I mean, honestly, right now, I think I only know, I think I might only know my phone number right now at this point, maybe my brother's, I don't know my sister's, I don't know my mom's cell. You know what I mean? So what happens when we lose Wi-Fi? I mean, all of us, like, you're driving down the road, like, Wi-Fi map, what's going on? Like, what about walking through a city and you're like, it doesn't like, re-up fast enough. I mean, how many people have gotten lost? I just did the other day because it didn't update fast enough as I'm walking. I think it's a problem. So
it's a problem.
What is a solution to this?
So you're right, it's a problem because we're being de-skilled. Like, there were points in that job where I thought, oh God, I forgot the formula for that. And I had to make a note when you go back to the hotel, look up the formula for X, bring it in.
Yep.
And then look up the factor for this. So there was a lot of that going on. So at the end of that job, it was about a 3-week project. And the younger people with me retrained themselves to work analog. They had a little notebook with all the formulas in and they were doing a hand calculation. So it was all good, but it was an adjustment. So they had to re-up their skills in a different way, right? For me, it was like going back. For them, it was something new.
So here's a question to that. When you watch these Instagram videos and you see someone like showing like a 20-year-old or an 18-year-old, like a rotary dial phone, and they're like, right. So what I've discovered too is a little bit about with being able to teach a lot is I think a lot of the students these days that could be 18 to 22, 23, like, even though they've never introduced to it, it's like when you introduce to it, you're going to get that, what the hell is that? Da, 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 da. And then they're going to be like, how come we don't learn that? That's the first question is, how come we don't still learn that? Right. It's not because, like, I think that's stupid, because I think a lot of the younger groups, I think they're inquisitive, right? But at the same time, it's just like, what hierarchy had basically said, no, you don't need that skill. No, you don't need that skill. I found the best students, they'll all be like, teach me old school stuff. They're like, it's almost like going to a museum. I feel like, it's like I should charge admission like a quarter, you know what I mean? It's like I'm Zoo Hall or whatever, like, from Tom Hanks movie. It's like, I think that they look at it in a way where if we did teach them, I think they would be adaptive to it. But I don't know who along the way basically said all old technology is bad. I still like mechanical PRVs. I still like stuff that when the power goes off, it still works.
Yeah. So you asked me, what can we do about it? So let's take the engineering principle of redundancy, right?
Yeah.
So people need soldiers who go in the field, right? They have all this kit, but they're also required to be able to navigate by hand using the stars, right? Right. So you've got, I think, the answer is engineers and commissioning people need to they need to be able to do hand calculations, take notes, and sketch. So when I was on that job, right, if I saw a problem in the past,
And talk to people.
and take a picture, then I had to sketch the problem and explain it to someone. Right? So one of the skills that people with me learned, they were relearning how to do sketches and schematic diagrams by hand, right, to explain something. So, the answer is you've still, whilst in the military is a good example, they have all the gadgets and everything, but they're still required to know and learn how to navigate by the stars and by maps, right? There's the analogy. We need to, as commission providers, always be able to do hand calculations, do sketching, and know enough to get through the day without technology.
And at the end of the day too, I mean, you actually have to understand like a schematic, the art of the schematic, basically just drawing out, not to scale, what comes in and what goes out and what's in the middle. It's always basic input, device, output. Doesn't matter what it is. If you can basically say what comes in, what's going on, what goes out, what is your goal, what touches what, and I think once again, if I had a magic wand and I could basically say to every engineering and architectural firm, when you're dealing with, juniors coming in or basically who hasn't seen it yet, don't just stick them in a chair and basically say, here, give me a duck run, do this, do that. Take them in the field and basically say, here, look at how this is done, that's done. Because you don't know what good is until you've seen bad, and you don't know what bad is until you've seen good. I think your first 6 months to a year should be on the job training. You should take them out there. They should learn it. They should love it. And then you should basically say, do you want to be in the field? Do you want to be in the office? Do you want to be in the managerial area? I think that we should be basically helping the next generation to find out what it is they're really awesome at. And then
drive them towards it,
areas that they're not, so they can be the most rounded, best person we can. That's kind of like, that's my philosophy. That's how I teach, and that's how I work with people. Anybody that knows me knows that I don't just focus on your strength, because that's only going to get better. Focus on your weaknesses, and we all become better together.
So my podcast partner, Robert, when he had his design practice, he used to make all interns and graduates do hand calculation for 6 months. And the ones that whined and wouldn't do it, they selected themselves out of the firm. He said it was awesome. It was a good tactic and a good skill they learned, right?
You still got to figure out basically how to make something work when the power goes off. Like it's.
So to wrap this up, I'll share a comment that, so when I went into this base and they took all our stuff off us, one of the people working for me, he looked at me after the end of the day, he said, is this what the zombie apocalypse is like when all the power